Today's video is brought to you in part by Raycon. You've heard of these guys by now, right? If you haven't, well, don't you worry, because they are all about hearing. You get it? Because they make earbuds? Yeah, you get it. Raycon offers a wide variety of wireless earbuds, all featuring high-quality sound, extensive battery life up to 54 hours, and very comfortable fits, no matter how weird your ears are shaped. They've got sleek designs, and they come in a wide variety of styles and colors, and it doesn't hurt that they're affordable too, starting at just half the price you'd normally find from other big-name brands. I use mine for pretty much everything, working out, walking my dogs, or just subtly letting people know not to bother me while I'm on public transit. The list goes on, and it's very likely you or someone in your life could use a pair. So be sure to check out my deal over at buyraycon.com/apologist, which will get you 20% off site-wide, or to save even more, 30% off their bundles. So if you and your partner are looking for an excuse to finally hit the gym, you can take advantage of the fitness bundle. Or hey, if you just have a couple of people you need to get gifts for, these are a great way of knocking some of your gift giving off the to-do list. They're going to be having deals all throughout the holiday season, but no matter when you click my link, it's going to remain up to date. We'll have a link on screen and of course in the description below. Thank you again to Raycon for supporting the channel, and with all of that said, let's get on with it. Welcome back to Sonic Speed Reading. I know plenty of you are waiting on a certain game review, but your boy is getting over a throat virus, so we're going to keep things nice and easy on my voice for a couple of videos while I get back into the swing of things. And thankfully we have the perfect story for just that. Today we're going to be looking at IDW's Tails 30th Anniversary Special. Yeah, that cute little dude is 30 years old. The story is by Ian Flynn, back again, with art by Aaron Hammerstrom, inks by Rick Mack, colors by Reggie Graham, letters by Sean Lee, and then I would assume approved by editors Riley Farmer and David Mariette. This is a classic era story featuring the return of Flicky Island from Sonic 3D Blast, as well as the enemies from Tails Sky Patrol of all places. Very obscure pulls from some obscure games in Sonic media, so let's take a look and see what they came up with. We start off with the ever-iconic tornado being flown by Tails with Sonic on top of the wings, pointing out that they are arriving on Flicky Island. And as they land, Sonic proclaims how good it is to be back, excited to explore the island yet again. Well, I'm glad somebody's excited to explore Flicky Island again. Tails excited to share his mint candy with some wild birds, and kids, I'm gonna tell you right now, do not feed candy to wild animals. And once again, I really don't know why they're pushing so hard on this weird mint candy thing with Tails. The duo are quick to notice that the island seems abandoned, as they're not greeted by the famous birds. Sonic speeds off ahead looking for clues, leaving poor Tails in the dust, but as fast as Sonic is, he seems to be overlooking some very obvious clues which Tails picks up on, that being the unnatural crystal formations and freshly laid rails, which are all the clues Tails needs to understand what has happened here. The island has been attacked by Witch Cart. Yeah, again, as I said in my Sky Patrol video, that is an actual name, not a whole lot of effort put into it, and that's just fine. And I think this particular comic does do a little bit of retconning in terms of the game timelines. If I remember correctly, the Tails games were supposed to take place before he met Sonic. As it is now, and as Tails explains, it takes place after Sonic and Tails have met, as the little fox tells Sonic of a solo adventure he had while the hedgehog was off doing whatever he was doing. And if you don't recall the deep lore that came from Tails Sky Patrol, not to worry, I'll quickly summarize here. There was an old woman who tried to take over some random-ass island, and she did that by turning things into crystal while she rode around in a cart that stuck to a very specific path, because that's what rails can do. You can't deviate from rails. Her three cartoon animal minions, on the other hand, had far more versatile vehicles that could fly around pretty much anywhere. And I'm just realizing that they probably did all of the work here. And sorry for the spoilers, but yeah, Tails managed to defeat all of them, and then I guess did nothing with them, because here they are being a problem again. Once Sonic is caught up, he obviously decides to follow the rails, and they decide to reference the ever-popular Adventure 2 shoes as he eyes them, thinking that they could be a lot of fun to grind on. And eventually we catch up with the three minion characters, who outside of Archie canon have never been given their own personalities, or feet for that matter, so it's interesting to see them here. We have Hawk Wolf, Bear Ranger, and Karatia, who I promise is going to be a fan favorite character after this issue. And I have no idea if I'm saying these names correctly or not. I don't know if they've ever been said out loud in any Sonic media, but regardless, yes, these are the guys that are capturing the Flickies. And I love that the wolf is just shoving the birds into a hole before he's rudely interrupted interrupted by Sonic. And this is actually pretty cool because, remember, Tails Sky Patrol was a Tails solo adventure, so this is the very first time that Sonic has met any of these characters. Outside of the sneak attack on the wolf, he gets a good uppercut shot on the bear before he's unfortunately zapped into a crystal, as Witchcart has arrived, saying, "While you were fighting all my chums, you missed something wicked. This way comes." Yeah, we have a rhyming witch, which I know is not exactly new in terms of game witches, but if Rare isn't going to use theirs, well, I say go nuts, Sega. So I guess that's her shtick, and I have said it before, but I do find it interesting in terms of at least classic designs. This is the only other human character I can think of in the classic style games. If you can count a witch as a human, I don't know. But outside of the rhyming shtick, it looks like Hawkwolf is just a snickering idiot. The bear talks like Yosemite Sam, so I guess he has a temper problem. Of course, if you're going to base it off of any classic cartoon character, I could think of another one that might fit a little bit better. And the rabbit, who was originally just lazy-eyed and throwing kisses everywhere in Sky Patrol, is portrayed as indifferent to everything around her, and she's pretty rad, I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, Witchcart sends them off to get more birds, and she drags an irritated Sonic back to her lair. We turn our attention back to Tails, who has been watching frustrated this whole time, mumbling to himself, why didn't Sonic just listen? They could have handled them one at a time, not all at once. Which is, of course, how he handled these characters during Tails Sky Patrol, and that's usually how you handle boss fights anyway. But yeah, as it stands now, the little fox is stuck without the help of Sonic, who he actually needs to rescue, and the Witchcarters are going to be on guard. So it's up to Tails to rescue Sonic and the birds. But thankfully, some of them have been rescued. And once he's over his anxiety attack, he gets back up, nervously determined to win the day, as he has beaten these guys before and plans to do it again. He just needs to be smart about it. The next page here actually takes a moment to give us a little bit of backstory in terms of 3D Blast. In that game, when Sonic would run up to Tails or Knuckles with 50 rings, they would act as the access point to the special stages. And the comic explains that as Tails and Knuckles trying to find the Chaos Emeralds while Sonic dealt with Eggman. They didn't need to bother doing that, but I love it when they try to explain game mechanics in rational ways for narratives. And this isn't just some random little thing that they're throwing in here. For anyone who hasn't played the game, this is explaining that Tails has been here before and has helped the Flickies out. So it makes sense that he would be familiar with this island, and on top of that, the Flickies, natives to the island, would know how to navigate it even more so. So he rescues even more, and he puts together a plan with the birds to rescue all of their friends. So we move over to Spring Stadium, where we have Hawkwolf, of course, chasing down birds. As he grabs a blue one in a net, he says it's your own fault, you know. If you weren't so small and weak, this wouldn't be happening to you. And Tails, without missing a beat, just grabs the dude off of his bike, saying, you said the same thing to me once, remember what happened next? And actually, Tails, I would love to know, because you did just kind of run off with them every time you beat these guys. The wolf doesn't seem too flustered, mocking Tails, asking if he's pretending to be a hero, and Tails just says, you keep talking, I'll keep tuning you out, which is a setup for the wolf to say, well, you're gonna miss out on my tune, as he whistles, and I guess his bike reacts to it, homing in on the duo and sending Tails flying. Safely back in his seat, Hawkwolf then picks out some mines out of nowhere. But at the same time, Tails calls out to the Flickies, saying it's time for Plan B. From panel to panel, we see a different Flickie singing out a different note. And I do love this little attention to detail here, showing a rusted, rotting Robotnik statue, which does let you know that he did indeed create all these structures on Flicky Island back in 3D Blast. And we'll see that with some other layers going forward. But for now, yeah, all the singing from the Flickies gets a reaction from the bike, as apparently it reacts to whistles. And with just a few notes from birds, the wolf is chucked off of his bike. And I have to wonder if this is a subtle nod to Tails and the music maker. They don't say anything as blatant as, wow, you birds are some real music makers. So who can say? The encounter ends with the wolf charging towards Tails, who just moves out of the way, and the idiot dog just ends up in a pit of springs. And that's the first enemy down. But before Tails moves on, he opens up the bike, saying that Hawkwolf's isn't as aerodynamic as the others, meaning it needs a repulsor unit to support thrusters, or whatever the case is. Tails is going to take something out of the bike. We then move on to Gene Gadget Zone, where we have Bear Ranger just chilling at the birds to get in the bag, and Tails attempts a sneak attack by spin-balling on top of his head, and it just annoys the guy. And then we end with the strangest of references, as Bear Ranger flings up his arms, saying, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. 89 Batman pull. Sure, why not? Gonna reference everything but the one character we should be I see how it is. I'm not worried about it. But yeah, the bear gives chase, throwing bombs at the poor little fox, who narrowly dodges all the attacks and calls out for for Plan C, which is just a bunch of flickies showing up and attacking the bear. Is this a reference to Hypertails? I'm just now realizing this could be a reference to Hypertails. Anyway, the attack forces Bear Ranger to activate full power of his torpedo, which launches straight into this tube machine from 3D Blast, and it looks like Tails was counting on him to react in such an angry fashion, as it leaves Bear Ranger trapped in some orange goo and his little torpedo jet in a pile of scrap. I love that little detail that's actually frowning now. Once again, Tails takes a part from it and carries on to the next zone, that being Rusty Ruins, where Carrotia is trapping flickies in carrot-themed cages, and I have to praise the girl for at least staying on brand. One of the flickies attempts to make a break for it, but is shot out of the sky by, again, another carrot. But while that's happening, Tails sneaks through the mist and pulls out the torpedo launcher. He sends it off with the flicky as the bunny flips her ship upside down, irritated, saying, "Oh, it's you. Of course it's you." Then I guess she had 2 torpedo launchers as she boldly sends a ton of carrot missiles out from a secondary one, with Tails spin dashing between the blasts. And I do love that we are seeing more and more of Tails' moves from the classic games. You usually don't see anybody but Sonic get curled up in a ball. The barrage kicks up more dust, which surrounds the bored bunny, slowly approaching Tails, irritated that she has to manually aim, not wanting to do a whole lot of hard work. This was supposed to be an easy job. With an exasperated sigh, she says, "Come on, just come out and let me run you over, please." All the while, Tails sneaks up from behind and yanks out a bunch of wiring, which sends her ship to the ground, teetering over the side of a cliff. And as it falls in, all she can say is phooey. Doesn't even care that she's been defeated. She's gonna take a nap. I mean, yeah, so far, all of these characters are simple, one-note personalities, but I adore this rabbit. And with all the witch carters defeated, it's time for Tails to bring together all the different components from their different carts and get ready for the grand finale. And soon we find ourselves at Panic Puppet Fortress, where Witch Cart has put together a crude version of her face over the abandoned Robotnik statue. And we see Sonic, still irritated, still trapped in Crystal, as Witch Cart mocks him, saying, "The famous hero, now subdued, with you stuck, I'm free to rule. Once all the flicky secrets are revealed, nothing will stop all of my evil." But she's interrupted by Tails with his brand new makeshift arsenal, saying that was terrible. That was a slant rhyme at best. This has to be a reference to Music Maker. This boy has to be into music. Classic Tails has to be into music. That's canon now. So a fight breaks out between the witch and the fox, using a rocket-powered grabby hand to rush along Witch Cart's many rails, and a little makeshift laser gun to shoot back at her, and of course Carrotia's torpedo launcher to launch carrots at the old woman. But the witch is quick to point out that Tails has missed every shot. But hey, we've read a story or two. We know that he wasn't aiming at the old bat. He was instead shooting towards Sonic's Crystal, who is now free. Panicked, the witch attempts to trap him yet again, but since he's aware of her, he dodges every single shot with ease. Embarrassed, she attempts an escape, and as she carts off, Tails regroups with Sonic to make sure he's okay, and of course he is. And unlike before, where Sonic was rushing ahead of Tails every single chance he got, this time when Tails says that they need to hurry, Witch Cart's getting away, Sonic responds by saying, "We don't need to do anything. The hero has already arrived," looking towards his two-tailed friend, who after a moment realizes he's referring to Tails, as he's been the one doing all the work so far. And with that boost in his confidence, Tails rushes off after the old woman, saying, "Okay, back me up," with Sonic giving a thumbs up saying, "You've got this, buddy." Tails quickly catches up with the witch, and of course he was. This old idiot can only go one way. She's on rails. And after a little smack talk and dodging some crystal shots, Tails manages to capture her in her own crystal. He drags the defeated pensioner back to Sonic, who says that he took care of freeing the rest of the flickies while he was busy. And when Tails asks what happened to watching his back, Sonic just shrugs, saying that he knew Tails had it. And Tails, ever the humble boy that he is, still thanks Sonic for saving the day. But the Hedgehog is quick to remind him that Tails is actually the one that got everything done. And now, with their enemies forever trapped in pits and crystals where they will likely die, the two friends are ready to finally start their vacation. And that is where the story ends. The rest of the book shows off a bunch of beautiful art that served as secondary covers, depending on where or how you pick this particular story up. And we have a wonderful variety of artists, including the ever-iconic Tracy Yardley and Matt Herms, a stunning piece by Mark Hughes, which looks like an old-school game cover. I absolutely adore this style. And even, surprisingly, Stan Sakai. And if you don't know who that is, that's the creator of Usagi Yojimbo, the samurai rabbit who always crosses over with the Ninja Turtles. That was a surprising cameo artist I was not expecting to see. And hey, if we can't get a Sonic and Ninja Turtle crossover, let's get a Usagi and Sonic crossover at the very least, but I'd still take a Ninja Turtle crossover. The remaining pages show us just how much work goes into putting together a comic, showing us every step of the process in an interesting and very easy to understand way, which is great for kids. This is a fun little thing if they're interested to know how these stories come together, or if they're interested in the comic industry in general. And this is where I actually learned that there wasn't existing art of these characters outside of their vehicles, and they actually had to make a feat just for this comic. And yeah, as simple as this story seems, I do appreciate this last little bit here showing just how much effort goes into even a simple story like this. These are very, very obscure characters. More than the Freedom Fighters, more than the Fleetway characters. I mean, for God's sakes, there's more story to Porker Lewis. More than Mecha Sonic, more than Metal Knuckles. These were characters that were quickly shifted over to be something akin to Sonic when we already know that this was supposed to be a game that had nothing to do with the Hedgehog or the Fox. So seeing Witchcart and all of her minions back again in the year 2022 is pretty cool. It's especially cool for me as I just got done playing through Tails Sky Patrol for the very first time, and for an upcoming video I've played 3D Blast more times than I wish to admit. So I had a lot of fun seeing these two specific obscure Sonic games get a lot of love in this one book. The characterizations are simple, and really that's all they ever needed to be. Yeah, a rhyming witch, as I said earlier, is nothing new. Everyone's gonna immediately think of Gruntilda, and I don't think anybody's going to care. Bear Ranger was pretty funny. I wouldn't mind seeing him again. Could give or take the wolf, but Caratia was the standout here. I adored her. That girl is such a vibe, and I'm not gonna be surprised in the slightest if she ends up being a fan favorite after this story. I really hope we see her again. As for Sonic and Tails, they were fantastic as usual. This is the second time we've gotten classic versions of these characters under IDW's publishing. And while I have plenty to say about how modern Sonic is depicted, at least when Ian writes the character, I've got my pros and cons here and there, but I still feel like his classic Sonic is pitch perfect every single time he gets his hands on that version of the character. And once again reminds me why I still adore classic Sonic over modern Sonic. And same can be said in terms of my opinions when it comes to classic Tails. He's just a little bit more adorable, still a little bit more of a kid brother, still learning, where yeah, modern Tails is great and all, but he's a lot more confident. He's just a flat out genius, as opposed to classic Tails, who, while smart, doesn't seem like he's fully aware of how incredibly intelligent he is quite yet. And I love that this story balances his ingenuity with the anxiety of having to take on a whole bunch of baddies on his own. Being completely selfless through the entire adventure, never once expecting thanks, and just being a good boy. But a good boy. Sonic, as bratty and impatient as he can be, still clearly admires his little brother, taking the time to give him the boost of confidence he needs. Like I've said before, Sonic already knows the potential of Tails. That's why the Fox is even allowed to go on adventures with him. He does not keep people around that are going to slow him down. And when he lets Tails go off to solve the problem on his own, it's not out of indifference, it's because Sonic knows that Tails has got this. And he knows that Tails is smart enough to figure all this stuff out on his own, and to figure out that he has everything he needs to be his own hero. The relationship is just perfect here, and it says so much considering how little time the two actually have together in this story. As far as the game pulls are concerned, I really liked how they fleshed out little tiny details outside of the characters. This is our first time seeing Dark Castle, and getting more use out of any of the zones from 3D Blast is always going to warm my old crusty heart. They really managed to capture the feel of those two very different games and merge them together in a wonderful way. Yet again, these comics do a great job making me say, oh man, I want to play that in a game. It's a simple, fun story, the art is beautiful, and it just feels good. It's a feel-good little tale about Tails. And if you haven't picked it up for yourself and you are a fan of the Little Fox, then I don't know what you're waiting for. I highly recommend this. It's a fun story for longtime fans. It's a great little comic for kids. Yeah, it's a fun time. But that's gonna be it for today. I've had to stop to cough a whole lot during this, so I'm gonna give my voice a bit of a break here. I promise I will talk about Frontier soon, guys. Just let me recover a little bit more. we'll be back with some more small videos. In the meantime, I was thinking maybe we should cover the annuals. I don't know outside of the Metal Virus one if we've ever done that before. And of course, before I go, I have to give a massive shout out to the patrons who've been supporting me all this time. Thank you guys so much for all of the help here. And an extra special shout out to these folks here: Kyle Winter, Cirrus the Skeptic, Joseph Duncan Sonic 2 Blue, John, Josh Strider, Casey 3D Blast. I forgot what I was going to call you this time. I'm going to get that right next time. Faison Ra Azul, Xanaroni the Painter, Hatsworth, Tiny Jericho, Ginger Bob, Jack of All Spades, Tristan Trapp, Meekers, Dun Dun, Quote, Resident Fanboy, Miles the Prower, Jeremy Singer, Mr. Boojay, World's Greatest Bard, Rain, Sam Webster, Dwight Graham, Fishflop, Lucas Lipker, The Bad Pal, Jonathan Dobbs, Cloverhood, Shoden, Mr. SP, Cecil the Glade, Dark Neon, Stefan Plotkonica, Bree Monic, Ty Cyan, Graham J. Hall, Lenny X, Wayne is Boss, Jamie Chevalier, Letterick, David 20 Covers, Singing Lost Messages of Long Ago, Ryan Rolfs, The Lumberjack, Wiki, give me that funky beat, yo. Otis, buddy, you gotta forgive me, man. I coughed like 3 separate times trying to read this whole thing out. I'll get it next time. NBTV, Mute, Trash Baphomet, Autumn from Twitter.com. By the way, Icky Nicky, Uni? I don't know what that is, from the hit game Xenoblade Chronicles 3, is pronounced Uni. Oh, well, I guess I should have kept reading there. Yours truly, that Pyramane. Mui Saxi, Jin Seotame, Nezen, Enerjack 5, Grayson Conager, Spades the Nocturne, Ken K, Ven 101, Paxton Bisbee, Sindarin 7, Stevie Cole, 3 Rule 4, Twilord, Asir Wards of a Denly Fate, Paisley, Eric Delgado, Cody Gracious, Kodinsky, Jamo Art, PK Durbar, Crimson Rose, Give Up Your Children, Separate, Sonic PAJ, Moonishant, Zagard Lagan, and if any haters say I'm not funny on Otis, I swear to God, wiggity word up, Mr. Bujay. Roxas the Cat, Godzilla, Infamous PNG, Makuta of Salt, Gleam the Anomaly, Jonathan, Alexander Watson, Kayleigh Presley, Native Nerd, Neil Gampa, Conan Kudo, and Sharif Pai. Guys, I sincerely appreciate all of the love here, but if my voice has not improved by the next video, we are going to be skipping the name shoutouts just for a video. I'm so sorry. I love you all so much, but God, this hurts so bad reading this. I gotta go cough up a lung, so I'll catch you all later. Toot toot, Tails Warriors.